Today we're going to talk about fat loss. And if fat loss is your goal, there's 3 methods we can use to achieve fat loss. And they are: the first one, calorie counting; the second method, food group elimination; and the third method is time-restricted feeding. So let's unpack them a little bit deeper. The first method is calorie tracking. And a lot of times calorie tracking isn't sustainable and achievable for a lot of us. However, it is still a viable option for some of us. And how do we track calories? This is where we need to weigh our food. We use an app like Chronometer or an app like MyFitnessPal. MyFitnessPal is the app I generally use myself. Before we even unpack that, let's just quickly touch a bit more to the big picture of things. In order to lose weight, we are going to have to be in an energy deficit. And what do I mean with an energy deficit? We are going to have to eat less calories than the body needs. If we consume fewer calories than the body is burning, we lose weight. If we consume more energy than the body needs, we will gain weight. It's like a savings account. I'm going to give you 2,500 Rand at the end of the day, and your expenses was 2,000 Rand. Are you now going to take that 500 Rand and put it in the dustbin? Wishful thinking. No, we're not. We're going to save that. Same with energy. If we eat food, the energy we eat, what we don't use, we store. Now, what if suddenly my expenses was 3,000 Rand that day and I only gave you 2,500 Rand? Guess what's going to happen now? We are going to lose weight. We're going to take that from this savings account. Now, that is universal approach if we want fat loss. Coming back to that first method of calorie counting. Calorie counting is a very useful tool for a month or two, and I encourage everyone to at least try it. It's not about being spot on accurate here. You will learn a lot about the quantity, the portion sizes, and the energy in foods. Most of us eat food without ever realizing how much energy is in the foods we eat. This is a lot of where we learn the volume of food doesn't always indicate the energy density of food. Sometimes we think we are not eating a lot, but the foods we are consuming per gram has a lot of energy. This is where calorie tracking is a vital tool to actually learn how much energy does the foods have that I consume on a regular basis. Still, it's not achievable for everyone to do this constantly, but as a learning tool, it's something I encourage everyone to try at least for 4 weeks. How do we track those foods? Eat the foods you generally eat. Put it on a scale, weigh them, scan the barcodes. It's never been easier to track calories than it has now. You can literally just scan the barcode, search the items, cooked or uncooked, and weigh your food. You'll be surprised how much and how quickly you learn the energy of certain foods that you consume regularly. Then you can actually see how much of the food you are eating and how much is the energy you are consuming. Now, the second method is food group elimination. And what we mean with food group elimination is you are cutting out one whole food group, being low fat, being cutting out carbs, keto, Banting, Whole30, paleo. All these diets that generally have a name to them applies this methodology of cutting out a food group. And a lot of times when we cut out a food group completely, it leads to weight loss. Not that it's the magical fix to everything. Usually when we cut out certain food groups, we also cut out those highly processed foods that are high in energy, leading us to overconsume on energy. And again, this is a viable option for many. Going low carb, going low fat, cutting out high fat foods, cutting out highly processed carbs, all these kinds of stuff, it does help. But also the question there, is it achievable and sustainable in the long run? For some, yes. For some, it isn't. In my personal diet, I still eat everything. I eat my proteins, I eat my carbs, I eat my fats. I don't eliminate one group completely. However, I do manipulate those groups depending on my goals. If you're in the gym, your goal is muscle retention, muscle gaining, and these kind of stuff. Protein will be your main factor. If endurance sport is your main goal, then carbohydrates will be your main factor. Now, if fat loss is your goal, protein is going to be the main thing to focus on to keep us satiated, to prevent any unnecessary muscle loss, and also to keep the hunger hormones at bay, because protein satiates us. If we're in a calorie deficit, hunger is the thing that leads us to overeat. So what is the third method then? As I mentioned, time-restricted eating. This is something a lot of people label as intermittent fasting. And the way we do it, we literally just shorten the window of the time that we eat food. And that can be we skip breakfast maybe every day, or we skip dinner every day. How does that lead to fat loss? We are eating less often, so we eat less meals, and in return, that brings down the energy consumption of the food we are eating. However, something to still think about here. For some people, when they decide to skip breakfast, it's easier for them to subconsciously then have a larger lunch and a larger dinner, because they are justifying, well, I didn't have breakfast, so I can eat these larger meals, and then they still accidentally overconsume on energy. If we are going to do time-restricted eating, where we restrict the time that we eat, it's still vitally important to ensure when we eat, we have a balanced meal. Now, how do we do this? Try to focus on maybe starting off with eating 10 hours a day and then 14 hours not. And the week after that, maybe moving your breakfast an hour later or your dinner an hour earlier, to the point where we want to get to a place of, say, 16 hours not eating and 8 hours eating. How you move that scale around is still up to your own lifestyle. Everyone's lifestyles are different. For me personally, some days I intermittent fast. I'll skip breakfast. I'll have lunch, dinner, and maybe a snack in between. Other days I'll have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's not that it's this magical tool that fixes everything. It's just a tool. Same as a mechanic and a carpenter has a tool belt with different tools for different applications. Intermittent fasting, time-restricted feeding is one of those. I'll give you a tip there. One thing I do like about intermittent fasting is the ability to plan ahead. Let's say it's Thursday evening and you have a party you need to attend to, or a dinner function you have to attend to. You know what's a smart thing then? What about skipping breakfast, having your lunch, but instead of a normal big lunch, what about focusing on 2 palms of proteins? Just to satiate me. Give me enough energy to get to the end of the day. Then come dinner time, I will eat what is given to me. I'll enjoy the socializing, the friends, the bonding, the function. And at the end, I still kind of fit in to my energy balance. That's where time-restricted feeding is a very valuable tool. It gives us the ability to plan ahead. So with those 3 methods, as I mentioned, calorie counting, food group elimination, time-restricted feeding, all 3 is a viable option for fat loss. Which one is best? There is no one that is best. I do encourage, though, to do calorie tracking for 4 to 8 weeks. So you can actually learn how much energy is in food, how much energy are you actually consuming. Then also, maybe then at the same time, try eliminating those highly processed foods, maybe going a bit low carb or low fat. The thing is, this is where losing fat is not a quick fix. It's a long-term thing, because we need to change the habit of how we got there. That extra 10, 20 kgs around your body that you want to lose, did that get there in 6 months, in 3 months, in a month? No, it's been coming slowly over 10, 20 years of your life. How do you expect to change that in a single week or 2? We can't. But that's also where we need to experiment. We need to try. Every week or 2, focus on just doing one thing. My honest recommendation, if fat loss is your goal, make a deal with yourself. For the next 6 to 8 weeks, I'm going to track and count the calories I'm eating. That way, we can actually build a foundational knowledge of the energy consumption I'm bringing in. Then, what's the next thing? You know what? Instead of food group elimination or time-restricted feeding, let's just focus on getting lean proteins with each meal, focusing on that 30 to 40 grams of protein per meal. Why? Because a lot of times just increasing our protein intake keeps us satiated, fuller for longer. And what does that mean? Less cravings and less energy dips. If we can do that for a week or 2 consecutively, that's already a big win. Then What about the next week or two then? Wow, now let's start looking at food group elimination. What if instead of eliminating carbs, we start focusing on better carbs? And what do I mean with better carbs? Think of things like whole grains, legumes, beans, chickpeas, lentils, amaranth, buckwheat, potatoes, sweet potatoes, things that are in the carb family, but they're not processed and they are as close to nature as possible. Those carbs generally has a lot of fiber, a lot of water weight, and a low energy density compared to their processed counterparts. You know what? If we can do that for a week or two, perfect. Now we already have the proteins. We already have better carb choices, which increase fiber intake, which also increases satiety and slows down digestion so we don't ride the blood glucose spikes. Okay, what's next? Maybe now, for a week or two, we start focusing on incorporating more fruits and vegetables. My plate of food. What if half that plate we focus on vegetables? If half your plate is vegetables, 30% is protein, and 20% is unprocessed carb sources, if those are 2 to 3 of your meals per day, you're already winning this game. It's not about quick fixes. It's about being able to do that consistently over time. And guess what's going to happen? You're going to feel healthier. You're going to feel more energized, less brain fog, less cravings. You know what's a side effect of that? True health. Another side effect of true health, the weight will come off and it will actually stay off. I know. I went from 118 kilograms to my 68, 70 kilograms where I am now. Did that take me a week or two? I wish. That took me a good 6-7 years of building a habit and then the next habit and then the next habit. And the beauty of that becomes your lifestyle. But then I hear people say, you know what, that's too long. They want quicker fixes. Okay? And they say 6 years is too long. Most of you, be honest with yourself. You've been dieting for the last 5 to 10 years. You start a diet, 6 to 8 weeks later, you fail. You start a next diet. Let's use an example of 80 kgs when you started. 10 years later, you're about 90 kgs, maybe 100 now. You've tried 20 different diets. So you've been dieting for more than 10 years, and actually you've been gaining weight. Now, where I say I cut my body almost in half in 6 years is too long. You see what I'm getting at there? Quick fixes will never solve the problem. Losing fat and becoming healthy isn't a beginning and end. It's a lifelong journey. Fat loss shouldn't be the goal. Health should be the goal. And coming back to the third method, the time-restricted feeding, that's where that tool helps us fit in with life a bit more. Some days we want breakfast, some days we don't. Sometimes we have events to go to. And that's the beauty of that then. We can adjust the window which we eat in to make us easier sustain the goal we are trying to achieve. Those 3 methods, they all have a different time and a different place for us to go through. But we still need to develop all 3 of those in order to lose fat, keep fat off, and actually become healthier. Without focusing on health, we're not going to lose the weight. Without doing it sustainably slow and adherable, that fat loss you get is just going to come back immediately. So try one of these things 1 to 2 weeks, then add a next thing. As I said, focus on lean proteins, unprocessed carbs. Then we add vegetables to every meal, half of the plate. You know what's the next step then? Maybe then we can start focusing on all the right fats, bringing down fat content, increasing the polyunsaturated fats, the avos, the nuts, omega-3 intake, all these things. You know what's next then? I don't ask a lot on these videos. Most of you are going to watch this video and you're not going to click the subscribe button or the like button. So I encourage you, please, to make my day a little bit better. Hit that like button or the subscribe button, and I'll make you this promise. I will make more of these videos, constantly trying to make a better video to be able to give you some tangible things to help you not just lose weight, to live healthier, not just physically, but also psychologically. Exercise, which we haven't touched on. Then we can start thinking, okay, I'm getting my food under the wraps now. And why do I start with food and not exercise? Food is the one constant we stop 2 to 3 times per day to do. However busy we are, however hectic life is, we still make time to eat. So that's why for me, food is the first area where we need to change our habits one thing at a time. Once I'm getting good at the food game, now I can start focusing on the exercise game. Exercise is very important here. However, exercise is not for fat loss. We should stop saying I exercise to lose fat. That's not what exercise is there for. Exercise is there for health, for cardiovascular health, making my heart healthier. At the same time, conditioning my muscles, keeping my muscles strong. At the same time, keeping my bone density high. All these things is vitally important, because the more I develop cardiovascular health, muscular health, and also bone density, the less problems I have when I'm 80. The less I have to worry about diabetes. Because muscle is a massive glucose sink. The more muscle we have, the more we exercise our muscles, and the more sensitive our muscles are to exercise, the more sensitive they are to insulin, which means the easier it is to stay low blood glucose, so we don't have diabetes problems later on. But also, Alzheimer's, dementia, cancers, cardiovascular diseases, all these things, the chance of you getting it comes down when we start exercising, moving the body. The body is meant to move. Exercise is not for fat loss, because once we've developed this whole mindset of exercises for fat loss, guess what? Suddenly I'm starting to lose fat. I'm going to stop exercising because I got my goal. It's going to come back, all of it. Exercise is therefore health, not even to mention mental health. Exercise is one of the best things we can do to bring down anxiety, depression, and mood-related low points. That's the beauty of exercise, not for fat loss, for overall health. So once we've developed good eating habits, then we can start focusing on exercise habits. I'm not going to say go to the gym 7 days a week from the beginning. No. Then let's try. For the next 2 weeks, twice this week, I'm going to go for 20 minutes of exercise. I don't care what exercise it is. Running, walking, cycling, walking on a treadmill, going to the gym. I don't care what it is. Get to 20 minutes in. You know what? The next week, I'm going to do twice 25 minutes. The next week, twice 35 minutes. You know what? After 3-4 weeks, I'm going to challenge you. Now let's do it 3 times. Another 2 to 3 weeks later, let's add another 10 minutes to those 3 exercises. Another week or 2 later, what about 4 times now? Now, those 4 times a week of exercising is nearly an hour. But you slowly build a habit of exercising, fitting it in with your lifestyle, seeing how you feel, getting a little bit better. And that way we can get to a place where we can exercise 4 to 5 times per week. But starting off, I'm going to go to the gym 5 times this week. I'm going to feel amazing. You're not. You're maybe going to go to the gym twice, but you set that goal of going 5 times this week. In your mind, I failed. I didn't achieve it. I feel low. The next week, I'm going to go extra hard. You know what? I can't have the pizza this weekend. Punish myself. The next week, you might go twice or 3 times again. You feel like a failure. 4 weeks later, you're fed up because you kept failing and you just stop. Change the script. Twice a week, 20 minutes. Tick, tick. I feel accomplished. I did it. Next week, 25. Tick, tick. I feel accomplished. The next week, 3 times. Tick, tick, tick. See what I'm getting at there? We're building a small habit, building momentum, ticking those boxes, feeling like we are making progress. The moment we are feeling like we are making progress, we actually start doing it more. The narrative becomes now I'm succeeding. And you know what? Sweat the small stuff, because it's all these little things that add up to make the big changes. You know that feeling on a new diet, cutting out everything. I can only eat this. I can only do this. I cannot do this. 6 days a week, I have to go to the gym. It's too much change too quickly. 6 weeks later, you are fed up, exhausted, and you revert back to the old ways, and you gain an extra kilogram of 2. It's never sustainable. So, to recap, start looking at those 3 methods of fat loss. Then, start calorie tracking to teach yourself how much calories are in the foods you are eating. Secondly, start thinking about cutting out highly processed carbs, highly processed snacks. Then, start looking at intermittent fasting as a tool to help you shorten the window of eating. Combining all three of those to a certain extent at different times makes it sustainable and achievable. But at the same time, you won't know unless you try these things. There's no quick fix or magical fix to solve all this. We need to do the work. I can help you with guidance here. I can give you a complete guide tailored to your weight, your goal, to explain in a neat manner how many palms of proteins do you need, how many thumbs of fats do you need, how many cup hands of carbs do you need, how many fists of fruits and vegetables do you need, to build a good foundation of how much you need to consume. But at the same time, with that, I can also teach you the proteins, the carbs, the fats, from the worst to the best. But none of those things will ever matter unless you start doing the work one step at a time. Then once you're okay with the food, let's tackle exercise. Remember, exercise isn't for fat loss. It's for gaining health, longevity, being disease-free as long as possible. Combine those two worlds now, slowly, step by step, in 6 months. You have changed your whole lifestyle. And that's my take on how to lose fat, keep it off, and become a healthy human being. Yes, I know the struggle. I've been there. Was it a quick fix? No. Did it come down instantly in a week or two? No, it was 6 years. But you know what? It stays off. I'm the healthiest I've ever been. I don't gain that weight back. And I can still enjoy my brownies, my chocolate chip cookies, my malva pudding, my braaibroodjies, all these things. But unless I cultivated those habits one step at a time, it will never be achievable. I don't ask a lot on these videos. Most of you are going to watch this video and you're not going to click the subscribe button or the like button. So I encourage you, please, to make my day a little bit better, hit that like button or the subscribe button, and I'll make you this promise. I will make more of these videos, constantly trying to make a better video to be able to give you some tangible things to help you not just lose weight, to live healthier, not just physically, but also psychologically. Because that way I know, you know what, I made one of your days better today, just a little bit. And that's enough for me to keep doing this, to share this message, because there's so many contradictory information out there. This do this do that do this, and we can't do this, we can't do that. You know what? It's missing the big picture. Let's focus on sustainability, achievability, and spreading goodwill to everyone. So I'd really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button and the thumbs up. That will mean a lot to me. And remember, be better today than you were yesterday. And until our next one.